welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, and Dan, we've got a number of quality games to go over, and tonight we've also got a special guest, Ballinger head football coach Chuck Lipsey.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be talking about football, and after a week one that went off largely without a hitch, so that was really positive, is that just about everybody got on the field, got their feet underneath them, and I think that's a good sign, and hopefully we can keep pushing forward. But we do have some interesting outcomes from last week to talk about, some really big gains from this week to talk about, so we should have a pretty packed show.
Okay, before we do that, we want to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, Dan, let's talk about a little bit of football. You had Stephenville and Sweetwater, and it didn't turn out differently, really, than we thought. We thought it would be a track meet. We thought both teams would score quite a bit of points. But we did think that in the end, Stephenville would have a little too much firepower for this very young Sweetwater team, which is really junior heavy team.
Yeah, it kind of went about how we thought it would. I thought that both teams would move the ball, both teams would score, and they did. But Stephenville, like you said, just had a little bit too much offense for Sweetwater. When Stephenville's number one offense was on the field, they scored every possession. They just really moved the ball real well, particularly on the ground, kind of won the battle up front. But I think Sweetwater, even though the score wasn't always indicative of it, they fell behind pretty good for a while there. I think that they showed the weapons they have as well. Offensively, they moved the ball pretty darn well. They ran for over 200 yards, passed for almost 150, and did some nice things. They had 2 turnovers that really kind of played them out of the game. If they could have maybe kind of cleaned that up a little bit, I think they would have hung in there for a while. It would have been probably about a 10-point game at half. And then at that point, who knows what happens. But I was really impressed with Stephenville, though. I think they had a lot to do with Sweetwater's struggles on the defensive end. They're just so big, so strong up front, and got some really, really good skill players. Got Gavin Roundtree, who is one of the area's top receivers, is now playing quarterback, and he looked really good, had great command of the offense. And then Kason Phillips at the running back position, I mean, we've known what he's been for a little while now. He ran for over 900 yards last year and had over 200 yards last week. So he's in for a big season. I think that's true really of the Stephenville team. I think it's over. But at the same time, don't sleep on Sweetwater. I think everything we said about them before the season is still true. That's a team with a whole lot of offensive weapons. They're going to put up a whole lot of points this year, and they're going to win a lot of games.
They're going to win a lot of games. That pretty much turned out the way I thought it would. That is the toughest team on Sweetwater's schedule all year long. They're not going to face a better team than what they just faced. They're not. And they scored 32 points on a good Stephenville defense. That's going to change for Sweetwater. They're going to have a nice season. Yeah,
and that's the thing is they ran the ball really well against a big, strong defensive front for Stephenville. They ran the ball really well, and honestly, Leo Halsey did not play his best game. So I think we're going to see that offense do nothing but improve and continue to move the ball up and down the field and put up a lot of points. So I'm still very bullish on Sweetwater, but having seen Stephenville in person, I understand why this team's ranked where they are in the Class 4A Division I rankings. This team is very, very stout, and I'm excited to see because they've got a schedule this year, both in non-district and district, that is going to test them from start to finish. And I'm really excited to see how that plays out because having seen this team, I'm very, very impressed.
Let's talk a little bit about this huge Comanche win at Mason. Now, some people are saying that Mason is down, but I'll tell you what, I don't care if Mason is down. You go to Mason into the Puncher Dome and shut them out 14-0. You're doing a lot of things right. This is going to be a very good Comanche football team.
I don't ever, Mason is never down in the sense that they're not going to be a very competitive football team. So to go on the road and shut them out the way that Comanche did, I think is very impressive, speaks very highly of what they've got this year. And I was excited about this team from the start anyway, because usually, like we've talked about in the past, anytime Coach Hermsmeyer has this many guys returning and this much experience to work with, generally speaking, he puts together really good teams.
And coming up big that night for the Indians on the road, Bryce Hermsmeyer was one of them. 4 solo tackles, 2 assists, 4 pass breakups. He had 3 carries for 21 yards. He also caught 2 passes for 55 yards and a score. Cash Cook came up big on the defensive side, 8 solo tackles, 8 assists, and 1 quarterback pressure to lead that shutout for Comanche. I tell you what, man, a shutout of Mason, I don't care. You shut out Mason, you're playing good football.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. You look at the offensive stats; they didn't do a whole lot offensively, but they did enough to win because their defense was so darn good. I mean, this was just a classic defensive struggle. I mean, it was a game where both defenses were playing really well, made it really hard to move the ball and score. And I'm eager to see kind of where Comanche goes from here with that win, because I think that this team has the ability to really do some nice things this year, and they're going to have some games coming up that I think will kind of show us just how good they are.
All right, moving on into Class 3A. A score that surprised me, not the victor, but the score. Brock 55 over Bushland 7, 55-7 over a very good Bushland team. This Brock team must be monstrous. And one thing that leapt off the page from that ball game, 659 yards in total offense from this Brock football team. And this is a Brock football team that's normally known for defense, Dan.
No, that's crazy. Like, I think you and I both expected Brock to go up to Iowa Park and leave with the win. I think we both thought that this Brock team had it in them to beat this Bushland team. But I thought this would be one of the better games of the week. Really, I looked at this and thought this was a more high-profile, kind of maybe one of the more competitive games on the slate. And Brock basically made sure that wasn't the case early. I mean, to rush for over, close to 400 yards, pass for 200, which is, very impressive for a Brock offense that's as run-based as they are. This team is, we've talked about a lot that this team has a chance to be scary good, and I think that they showed that in week one. I think that was kind of a warning shot to everyone in Class 3A Division One. But it's, I'm kind of at a loss because I thought this team was going to be good, and they've lived up to that billing, in every way so far. But Cash Jones had over 240 rushing yards in that game on 11 carries, 4 touchdowns. This is a guy that had a monstrous junior season last year, and he's back and doing the same things. Jackson Gleaton, back at quarterback, had a really impressive game throwing the football, 7 of 8 for 233 yards, a pair of touchdowns. It's hard to find any quibbles at all with this performance. This Brock team was basically flawless in their opener, and if they're going to play like this the rest of the year, it's going to be hard for anybody at that classification to beat them.
Yes, it is. That's the type of performance that you see from teams that go to Arlington right there. That was a dominating performance over a very good Bushland team. All right, also a noteworthy ball game that actually occurred on Thursday, a big rivalry game out in the Big Spring area, played in Big Spring. Coahoma over Forsan 15-13. This was a good ball game. Both teams had leads early on. Coahoma took a late lead with a late field goal, and Forsan had a shot at it, but just missed a 29-yarder in the game's final second.
Yeah, that was a classic, and it's a rivalry game, and you expect we talked about that when we previewed the matchup last week, how this rivalry, for whatever reason, generally speaking, they play close competitive games, and this was absolutely one of those. And I mentioned last week that I'm bullish on both of these teams. I think both these teams will be very competitive this year. And nothing that happened last week changes my mind there. I thought Forsan would win. I thought they'd win late, and they weren't quite able to do that with the missed field goal. But I think both these teams have a positive outlook going forward, and I think that this game will do nothing but help both teams. I think both teams defensively played a really strong game, offensively made enough plays to give themselves a shot, and it turned out to be kind of one of those classic games in this rivalry.
Frankly, I think I've underestimated Coahoma. I thought that Forsan would win this football game, not easily, but I thought they had a decisive edge in this ball game. I think I've underestimated Coahoma. I didn't know if they could compensate for the loss of Zach Schneider. Apparently, they have found a way because this Forsan team has the material to be a good ball club.
And then I think that they've got a staff there that's really kind of built a culture and built a program to where they're not going to necessarily have to rebuild as much as kind of reload in these situations. They've got some guys over there that have kind of got that attitude that, hey, it's your time to step up. We're going to keep this train rolling. And I think this was a good start for them, because I think you're right that this Forsan team is going to be very competitive this year. So to go out there and find a way to gut out a win over that squad, I think was pretty impressive.
All right, and with that, we move on to last week's Big Country game of the week, Jim Ned and Ballinger. We'll talk a lot more about this ball game when Coach Lipsey joins us. 20-14, but Ballinger with a come-from-behind win at Tuscola. That result a year ago would not have happened. It could not have happened. 2 years ago, it would not have happened. Could not have happened. Even 3 years ago. This time around, it did. And, Dan, I'll tell you what, it was up front in the trenches where Ballinger won the football game. It was a winnable game for both clubs. Jim Ned played well, don't get me wrong, and they could have won that game. They had a touchdown called back on a kickoff return in the fourth quarter. But Ballinger's effort in the trenches is really what kept them competitive and gave them a shot at winning the ballgame.
Yeah, and that's really what I think impressed me most is because, I mean, to beat this Jim Ned team, you've got to be very tough, and Ballinger proved, that's definitely the case. Not only with what wasn't just with what you mentioned, which was obviously a big deal, with as well as they held up in the trenches, but also, I mean, they lost a couple of their best players in that game. Tyler Vaughn at quarterback is a kid that they lean on heavily on that offense, and then Adam Wynn is a two-way All-State player on both lines. I mean, that's obviously a massive loss. So to lose two guys in that game, and then Braden Bowman, who they lost in their scrimmage before that. So you're talking about three players that are impact players for that program that weren't there in the fourth quarter to still find a way to go on the road and beat a good Jim Ned team. I think that kind of, again, is kind of a warning shot that, hey, this Ballinger team, I mean, there's a lot of people who've been very bullish on it for a long time. They were ranked in the Texas football preseason rankings, but I think they kind of showed, hey, this is why we're ranked there. And I think that a very impressive win for Ballinger, and I think that it really speaks well and highly of the potential they have to do some pretty impressive things this season.
All right, with that, let's take a quick look ahead at the week that we've got coming up. Another quality selection of good football games. We're going to take a look at the five big ones as we see them. Let's start off with the one that you're going to go to, Dan. Brady at Comanche. I think that's an interesting matchup.
Obviously, with their win last week at Mason, I think it just kind of heightens that anticipation. And then this Brady team, I'm really interested, too, to see what this team's got. They went and got a huge win in their opener, beat a struggling TLCA program 81-8. But I'm really eager to see this program because I think they lost a really important and big senior class from last year, about 13 players. So they've got a bunch of guys who are in newer, kind of bigger roles. So I'm excited to see how they step into it. I know the one thing that I think that they really want to do is kind of prove that as a program, they've gotten to a point where they can graduate an influential class and then still continue to compete. And if they can go on the road and compete with Comanche, I think it'll speak very highly of kind of their chances of doing well in their own district later in the season.
All right, if Comanche wins that ball game, handily, you better look out for Comanche. You better look out if they win that one handily. A ball game that I like personally, I like this matchup. Anson at Coleman. This is going to be, in my opinion, one of the more dramatically improved teams in the area. The Coleman Blue Cats. They came off a big win, routing Miles on the road last week. They'll be facing Anson, a ball club that, again, is showing that is very capable offensively, executed really well against winners on the road. This is going to be an interesting ball game. It's going to be a contrast in styles. Coleman prefers to get physical, knock you on your rear end. Anson prefers to spread the field out, run the football between the gaps that they create. It can be a fun matchup. And Coleman, I think, is going to be a great measuring stick for them because if they're competitive in this one or win it, we can welcome the Blue Cats back to the fold.
Yeah, definitely. And the Blue Cats have me eating some crow this week. I vastly underestimated them last week against Miles. They went on the road, or they went and got a huge win, 32-0 shutout. So I've thought for a long time, and we've talked about this back and forth, that Coleman was going to be improved this year. I think they showed that they're, like you said, pretty dramatically improved. And this will be another opportunity for them to prove that against an Anson program that has some firepower once again. Dylan Pyle's one that stands out as a guy that's a real playmaker for them. They're going to have to Coleman's going to have to account for that. But I'm excited about this game for lots of reasons. I think if Anson can go in and get another impressive win, it tells you how good they are. And then if Coleman can, keep this one close or win it, I think you're right. This tells you that Coleman is back to where we have kind of come to expect to see them under Coach John Elder. And if that's the case, that's exciting because in that district, they're going to have opportunities to do some nice things and I think even get to the playoffs and make a run.
All right, moving on into Class 4A, we've got what I think is going to be a real shootout. The Lampasas Badgers are going to be heading over to Tarleton State University to face Stephenville at Memorial Stadium. Dan, Lampasas had its way with a very good Brownwood team last week. Now they're facing this Stephenville team that you saw personally at the Mustang Bowl. This is going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, on paper, it certainly looks that way. You look at what Lampasas did last week against Brownwood, and that's a Brownwood team with some talent. So to go and dominate the second half, particularly the way they did, I think shows the ability this Lampasas team has and kind of shows why they're ranked as highly as they are. But having seen Stephenville in person, I'm excited to kind of see where this puts them. Because if they can go in there and find a way to win this game, I think it tells you that this Stephenville team, maybe even to compete for a district title, which would be impressive given the fact that they've got La Vega in that district. But so I'm just excited. I think this is one of those classic kind of measuring stick early season games where there's no, other than injuries, there's nothing to be lost in this game. If you win it, it's a huge win and a huge confidence boost. If you lose it, you just say, hey, we just played a great opponent, and this kind of lets us know where we stack up. So I think this is going to be a great matchup for both teams, and I'm excited to see how Stephenville does, because if they can go out there and find a way to win this one, I think it tells you that, hey, this Stephenville team is legit.
All right, now let's take a quick look at an interclass matchup. The Cisco Lobos are going to be heading down to Wall to face the Wall Hawks. And this has more or less emerged as a rivalry over the last few years. It's always a really tough physical football game between two teams that like to keep it on the ground. This should be one of those, just another trench war. Cisco opened last week impressively, Dan, with a 39-14 win over Clyde, a Clyde team that we know is well coached, especially defensively. And the Lobos pounded out 450 yards in total offense, rushed for over 300 as a team. This is going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be interesting to see what Cisco can do against this Wall defense, which is going to be one of the better defenses they've had in years. We still don't know a lot. We know that Wall is going to be really good. We just don't know yet because they're playing a shorthanded Eastland football team last week in a rout over the Mavericks.
Yeah, and it's funny you kind of threw me when you called it interclass matchup, but it is that now with Cisco dropping to 2A. That's Cisco's been in 3A so long that they've always kind of been one.
You're gonna have you have to get used to saying that. You have to 2A Cisco. That's going to take a while to get used to.
Yeah, now they're two divisions apart rather than the one that they have been. So that's going to kind of make this an interesting kind of aspect to this matchup, but. Like you said, this has been kind of a little bit of a rivalry. They've played in non-district for several years in a row now, and generally speaking, it's been a competitive game. And these are two programs that know that this is a game that's going to make them better in the long run. So this is another one I'm excited to see, kind of, especially where Cisco stacks up, because you talked about what they were able to do last week against Clyde. And that Clyde team is always a defensive-minded team. So when you go out there and run,
no, that's a 3A D1 also. That's a 3A D1 also. They played up to play them.
Yeah, and granted, Clyde graduated a lot of talent off that defense, but Scott Campbell generally puts together good defenses. So if you go and run for over 350 yards against them, get 316 yards from Hunter Long, that's pretty darn impressive. I'll be interested to see what they can do against this Wall team. And I think this will give us a pretty good idea after this game of just how good this Cisco team is. Because if they go in there and are as competitive in this one as they have been against Wall in the past, I think that's a pretty scary prospect for other Class 2A Division 2 or Class 2A Division 1 opponents.
And with that, it's time to talk about the Big Country Preps game of the week, a game that resulted in a classic overtime win for Holly last year. Holly hosting Hamlin, and this is a couple of the area's best small school programs. Should be interesting, Dan. Holly just absolutely dominated last week against Roscoe. Ran the football really well, even though they've graduated half that offensive line. They don't have Colton Marshall anymore. They ran up all kinds of yardage last week facing Hamlin, which really had a surprisingly physical, tough battle with Stanford. I know they won 32-0, but Stanford really played well defensively in that ball game and gave them a go for a while.
Yeah, they did. And that game, Hamlin really didn't pull away until the second half. But I think the one thing that Hamlin did do that really impressed me was pitched a shutout against a Stanford team that has a few weapons. So I think the fact that Hamlin's defense is playing as well as it is this early is a good sign. However, they're going to face a different beast this week in that Holly offense, which put up yards and points in bunches last week. And looks like, once again, they're going to be really kind of one of those juggernaut-type offenses. Granted, Colton Marshall's not a part of it anymore, but when you talk about probably an underrated part of that is quarterback Xavier Rodella, a kid who both passed and ran for over 1,000 yards last year, but was kind of overshadowed a little bit by Marshall. This year, he's kind of more of a centerpiece of that offense, and then they've got the Compton kid running the ball. This team's still got weapons, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, for this Hamlin defense to slow that down. But I expect it to be another competitive game between two of, like you said, two of our top small school programs. And I'm excited to see kind of where both programs stand after this matchup. If this is another one of those classic games, I think there's a good chance you're going to see, once again, both of these teams make really good, solid, deep runs in the playoff. But before we move on to talk to Coach Lipsey tonight, why don't you go ahead and thank a few of our sponsors?
Well, let's begin with Capital Farm Credit. Of course, it brings you all of these Wednesday night podcasts free of charge throughout the school year. Also, for the Love of the Game broadcasting, our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, KATX 97.7 FM out of Eastland. KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY FM 98.5 out of Ranger. That is for the Love of the Game broadcasting. Also, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give Phil a call at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And lastly, Underwood's Cafeteria in Brownwood. As you're driving through Brownwood, look around for the Big Cowboy sign, and you'll find it some of the best home cooking in the Big Country. That's Underwood's Cafeteria, a landmark in the Big Country since 1946. And with that, Dan, it's time to bring on Ballinger head football coach Chuck Lipsey. The Bearcats look great Friday night, coming from behind to beat Jim Ned on the road. That's a good Jim Ned football team, a good young, talented Jim Ned team. To beat them on the road like that, to come from behind to do it, that was impressive. We're looking forward to talking to him.
Yeah, and this should be a fun conversation with I hope he'll be an excited coach. I mean, he got to see his team go on the road and win a really hard-fought game. And I think an important game for this team. This team has a lot of momentum going into the season. There are a lot of outside expectations for this team, and so far, I think that they've lived up to those. So it's going to be fun talking to Coach about this win and just about what he's looking forward to this season.
And joining us now via Zoom, Ballinger head football coach Chuck Lipsey. Coach, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Evan.
All right, Coach, open the season up with a big win at Jim Ned. I think it told us a lot about your ball club. Can you talk a little bit about that? I thought that you benefited from facing a team that tough in the first week, and just talk about what you learned from your ball club getting a win on the road like that.
You know, that's been something that, you know, I've been worried ever since Coach Fanning and I agreed about playing, you know, last spring when we talked about it, that, you know, I knew they had a very good outfit. And they were very good last year and had a bunch back and had some good young kids coming. But at the same time, I thought that was the kind of game we needed. Also trying to bulk our preseason schedule up, you know, and I kind of told, you know, we've got tough opponents our next 5 games, even in district. But, you know, I told our coaches after watching them on film and the scrimmage that, you know, they were going to be one of the toughest teams that we play in our first 10 ball games. And I still feel that. So, you know, I mean, we were blessed that the kids played hard. Yes, we had some key injuries. You know, we lost Braden Bowman the week before in the scrimmage against Anson. That was really tough for us. You know, he was a 2-way starter at receiver and outside backer. They'd done a great job and had a great summer, was ready to go, and that was tough losing him. And then when Tyler and Adam both went down in the fourth quarter, when it was 14-13, you know, that was a big knockdown for us. But the kids that we put in really stepped up, and I was very excited about the win. But like you said, I was very excited about our team still coming together with the injuries and being able to come away with the win against a very good football team.
And Coach, that kind of leads me into the next question. Y'all did have some key injuries to kids who are big-time players for you. And on one hand, it's nice that you were able to kind of absorb that and still get a big win. On the other hand, kind of what are you looking at from those kids? Have there been any status on kind of what you're expecting from Tyler, Adam?
You know, for sure, Braden, who got hurt in the scrimmage, he's already had 1 surgery. He's got to have 2. He's got to go – they had to fix the LCL, and then he's got to go back and fix the ACL on it. So, I mean, we just keep our prayers out for him and the doctors that they get that knee fixed back up. You know, Tyler's tweaked his shoulder. He's going to be all right. He's getting better every day, just kind of playing that day by day. Adam took a kind of a forearm shiver from friendly fire from one of his own teammates trying to tackle. It's like a Mike Tyson punch in the jaw and just kind of, you know, knocked him out for just a second, which he knew everything. The next, you know, we had him standing off from concussion. Doctor said he's going to be fine. So, you know, we'll for sure get Tyler and Adam both back. So that's a big part of our team.
Coach, I was impressed with your performance up front. We talked a little bit about this after the ball game the other night, but that is the most impressive performance in the trenches that I've seen from a Ballinger team in a long time. I thought that you guys were very physical up front, and then that's what championships are won with right there.
It is, you know, and that's what I've told our kids in the last 2 or 3 years I've been here. We're blessed with some good skill kids, but it all starts in the offensive line, and they don't get enough credit in the defensive line. But, you know, those 5 guys, and, you know, we still had Marcus Castleberry, which has been sick. He's been trying to recover from being sick. You know, he's our big tackle. He didn't play up to par the other night. He's just trying to recover. But the battle in the trenches, I knew going into that game with Jim Ned, because I thought they were very good up front on both sides of the ball. That was going to be the key to success. And I mean, I thought it was a very evenly matched game. Went both ways, but I was very proud of the way our offensive line, defensive line played up front.
You guys had the look of a team that went to Tuscola really thinking you could win the ball game, expecting to win against a really good team. And that's another thing. That's indicative of a culture change in Ballinger. You guys went there thinking you could win that ball game.
Yeah, they believed when we got off the bus that we were going to be able to win that game, and they knew, and we all knew that we were going to have to play well for 4 quarters, and it was going to be a deal where, both of us just had one scrimmage. They had a lot of two-way starters. We had a lot of two-way. We had a couple kids that, never came off the field, and it was going to be, who still had the juice could make the plays at the end in the 4th quarter, and that's what happened. But, it's good to go in and play as well as we did. Even when you go back and watch the film on Saturday, and Jim Ned's going to be the same way, they still have room for improvement. I thought they played well. We still have room for improvement. I thought we played well for the most part and were able to come away with a win, but we still got things we need to work on to make us better.
Okay. And along the lines of what Evan just mentioned, just kind of a culture change, a newfound confidence and attitude in that program. Obviously, the expectations for this program, both inside and outside, have been really high. Y'all were ranked to start the year in Texas football. I know that was a big deal. I mean, just how's this team kind of handled that just kind of having some external expectations on them the way they do?
And it was the deal, and that's like I told them, and I told Evan this before, that, a lot of those kids have started since they're sophomores. They've gotten better each year, and, and you keep playing like that, and the rankings and people pick you to win district, all that's good. But at the same time, you've got to – everybody's going to be gunning for you. And, I think that just like the Jim Ned win, it was huge for Ballinger. It was huge for our program. It was huge for our team this year. But that game's over. That's what we've been stressing this week. We played hard. We fought hard. We had a lot of grit against a good football team. We pulled out a victory. That game's over. We can't pat ourselves on the back anymore. We've got to get ready for Breckenridge this week, and each and every week we got to improve to get better. So, the community's fired up. The whole deal with COVID and being locked down has been stressful for everybody everywhere, not just in Ballinger. I'm just thankful that we're getting to play. It couldn't have happened any better. I wish the kids wouldn't have got hurt. But, like I said, the 2 of them are going to be all right. One of them's, going to be done for the year. But we got us off to a good start. We've got that one behind us. As far as the confidence level, they think they can play with anybody, not in a cocky way or being overconfident, but they believe they can win. And I think that's something that's gotten better in Ballinger the last couple of years. And this group is a big part of that, of the success we've had. So, our deal is we just got to heal up, stay healthy, and get after Breckenridge this next week.
And I know y'all have been excited about this team because, like you said, it's a lot of guys that have kind of grown together. But at the same time, now that you've seen this team play, you always kind of want to see them get them on the field. What do you kind of view as being this team's potential, and kind of what are some of the keys for this team achieving, its highest potential?
I think it's got to be – we just got to improve each week and be ready to play every Friday night and improve from the week before. Yes, we would like to win all of our preseason games. Yes, we'd like to be 10-0 and win all of our district games. And the potential's there to do that, but we just got to keep working hard. And, like I said, as far as practice go, weight room goes, practicing out there when it's hot, there's never no complaining. They just work hard and get after it. It's a neat group. So we just got to pull together and keep getting better each week. And the sky could be the limit. But at the same time, we don't want to overlook any opponent that we have, whether it be in preseason or district, and they've done a very good job of staying focused on who we're playing each week.
Coach, looking around the area last week, did any scores surprise you? Did you ever look at any of the scores from around the area and go, wow?
Yeah, I mean, that's something, we got that app, and y'all show and everybody else you show, you always look, and it's just hard to tell, I mean, I don't want to bring this up. They got a little problem. They got to get fixed in Eastland. They'll get that fixed out. But the Wall-Eastland game is going to be a big matchup. But I understand the situation there. I guess Comanche going down and beating Mason in Mason was a big win for them. In our district, Bangs, I think Bangs is going to be a very competitive opponent for us in district. So, we all start kind of keeping up with one another, but at the same time, it's like I told our kids, that's exciting to look at all that, but we got to stay focused on our job and at task and go from there. So, week one, Evan, like you said, you can't tell. I mean, that was week one. I know everybody is had the jitters about playing. There were some upsets. At the same time, we got to stay focused on our deal and be ready to go this week.
And last one, but you kind of touched on this, that COVID has kind of added a new layer of adversity for every team to kind of fight through this year. But how nice was it just to be out on a football field, to get these kids playing, and kind of just how do you see it going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I was so worried, over the summer that I was really – I'm a positive person, but this was one thing I was really worried about, that any football team, but, especially ours, and you're coaching them and this group of kids, you finally get everything the way you want it going good, and always had the fear a little bit that would have been devastating. But, just like I said, I'm thankful. That's when we first started and they let us do summer workout. I was really surprised when they came out August 3rd, and we got to get started on August 3rd, and, just told the kids to be thankful for every practice, every Friday night. Our goal is to play as many Friday nights as we can this fall. That's our goal. So we're excited about being playing, and I just hope that everybody stays as much as they can COVID-free, and the teams and the fans do what they're supposed to, so we can continue to play throughout the season.
Coach, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be keeping an eye on you all season long.
All right, Evan, I appreciate it.
All right, good night, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, that was Ballinger head football coach Chuck Lipsey. Chuck's a great guy. He's always just a polite gentleman. I've always liked Chuck a great deal. And it was good to see his ball club. It's good to see his program really start to take big steps forward down in Ballinger. They're starting to play the type of football that we're accustomed to seeing a Chuck Lipsey team play. They're able to run the football, mix in a balanced type offense, but really, emphasize a good running game and play sound defense. And that's really the type of football Chuck wants, and it's the type of football they're getting.
I mean, if you look at throughout his career, I mean, this year 4 is usually about the time when he really gets those programs cooking. I mean, I think years 3 and 4, he gets them going. And I mean, he did it at Bangs. He had a really nice run at Bangs. He went to Brady and helped that program improve. And he's doing the same thing at Ballinger. He's got that program, playing just a really good, confident brand of football. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's building there. And I'm excited to see what this team can do, because I think he touched on this. I can't remember if it was after the game last week, but when he was saying that Jim Ned, there's a chance that Jim Ned's going to be one of, if not the best team on that schedule. So to go on the road and get that win, I think it really, tells you kind of what they can accomplish if they're able to kind of keep that train moving.
All right, with that, it is time to close the books on the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 different subscription packages here at BigCountryPreps.com. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got a yearly subscription, a 12-month subscription that we knock the price down to $3 a month.
And we also remind you that if you ever see a photo in any one of our galleries, and we're taking a lot of photos now that the season has started, those are available for purchase for just $7 each. You can just click that small shopping cart icon to the bottom right, follow the prompt, and purchase as many of those as you would like. But as I said before, we take a lot of pictures. There's a lot to choose from. We hope you enjoy looking through those, and feel free to buy any one of those you want, because that's something we're real proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.